Hi folks, and welcome to another topical deep dive here on the Cord Cutters News channel. And this one's actually going to be a little bit different. So instead of reviewing a new piece of hardware or checking out a new streaming service, this one goes behind the scenes a bit to show you how we at Cord Cutters News actually stream. We're going to talk about the devices and hardware we use to stream, the services we use to stream, and the shows we like to watch. And we'll also get into some of the shows and movies we'd love to check out, but haven't quite gotten around to yet. If you've ever been curious how we at Cord Cutters News stream, this is a video for you. This is what we're streaming at Cord Cutters News. Alright, so it wouldn't make sense to talk about Cord Cutters News without inviting our guest here. This is Jess, so welcome Jess, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to have a little chat about streaming.
Yeah, like I've told our viewers already, the goal of this video is to kind of like peek behind the curtain and see how we ourselves personally stream, the hardware that we use, the TVs, that kind of thing. So would you mind getting us started with how you stream in your day-to-day?
Absolutely. So I have a pretty basic setup, I would say, considering what we do for a living. I have a TV with Roku built in my living room, and that's fairly new. So the built-in Roku is really working for me. And then, of course, I also have an Amazon Fire TV stick connected. I have a TiVo Stream 4K connected. I have an Apple TV connected, just in case I feel like switching from one platform to another. And then elsewhere in the apartment, I have a TV with Amazon Fire built in and kind of the opposite setup where then I have a Roku connected to that TV, just so that I can always kind of be aware of what's going on every platform and every device.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it sounds kind of similar to our setup here, where we have a multitude of devices plugged into various inputs. So yeah, it starts off in our main entertainment center with a 55-inch OLED, which we love. I wouldn't have bought it if it weren't like $600 or $700 on sale. But yeah, that's the centerpiece of our entertainment center. And for the most part, we just use the web OS platform that's built into that LG Smart TV. It's good enough. We've done some speed tests compared to dedicated streaming devices, and it definitely lags behind if you time how long it takes to switch from app to app. But for our basic Netflix, Hulu, Prime Video kind of things, it does fine. For the services where it lags, that's where the other devices come in. We have the NVIDIA Shield TV Pro, which is more power than a streaming device really needs, but it's really, really fun to have. So we have that hooked up to our TV. We also have the new Apple TV 4K that we reviewed on the channel recently. And then for some streaming duties, not a whole lot, but we have the PlayStation 5 hooked up as well. I usually, if I'm lucky, I'll play that as a game machine, like maybe once a month, because there's just so much to do right now. But we also check out the streaming services on there just to make sure we're up to date on, what the game consoles offer as far as streaming devices. And then elsewhere in the house, we have a bedroom TV, 1080p basic Black Friday special, and then we've got the probably world's oldest Roku device hooked up to that as well. I really should upgrade that, but it's kind of fun to have just to see how streaming devices have progressed in just a few short years. But at this point, if I switch between Netflix, YouTube, and a couple others, then I get that memory loading thing where it's like, you should probably install a memory card at this point. So that's how old that one is. And then we have one last TV that's actually in our garage. So my daughter, we've discussed this before, she has Batten disease, and one of the things she enjoys doing is soaking in a hot tub. It's relaxing for her, so we have that in the garage. It's kind of our indoor spa, basically. And we have another Black Friday special TV there with the second oldest Roku, probably, hooked up to that. And so that's what we stream while we're letting her enjoy her spa time. And then, yes, this whole plethora of devices, I regularly switch out just to check on like updates and just to make sure I'm up to date on the latest platforms like you mentioned as well.
We really have no excuse to be using outdated devices at this point for all of the boxes sitting behind you right now.
I feel like it's just like nostalgia at this point. I'm like, what was it like to stream back in the day? So that's my only excuse. But yeah, we have plenty of up-to-date and cutting-edge streaming hardware to choose from in the household. And so, like, just, beyond hardware, I was also hoping to explore, what kind of services we go to the most. the Netflixes, Prime Videos of the world. So do you want to share like what your current go-to streaming services are?
Yeah, definitely. I would say this is one of the questions. I don't know about you, Philip, but one of the questions I get most often. Somebody asks every single week during the Wednesday night live stream Q&A what apps I use, and my first reaction is to say, "Do you want me to just list off all 50 that I have up at all times?" But so I'll go over the ones that I use most often whenever I'm watching shows personally, not whenever I'm watching something for work or testing out a service. So currently, this changes frequently, but right now I'm using Sling TV to watch live TV and Locast to watch local channels because Locast just launched in Cleveland not too long ago, which was a very exciting moment for me. Lots of Cord Cutters news readers know I was so excited when Locast came to Cleveland. So I'm using those two for live TV. And then I have, a bunch of those on demand services that I use for sometimes just one show or some that I keep going back to. So HBO Max, I'm loving lately. They just have such a good variety of shows and movies. And Paramount Plus, I've been using a lot. So we'll get to what shows I'm watching later, but Paramount Plus has been key for some of my current favorites. And then there are some of the regulars, the Hulu, and some free services because everyone knows how much I love free streaming services. So I've got the regular YouTube app, I've got Crackle and Pluto TV and the Roku channel. Love those free services.
Yeah, I get that question a lot too about what exactly I'm streaming, and it runs the gamut depending on like what mood we're in, what kind of trends we're following, that kind of thing. But some of the regular go-tos, the expected stuff like Netflix, Hulu, and Prime Video, those make up a decent chunk of our viewing experience, especially for like, if we're not really paying attention to what we're watching, we just want something on, we'll go back to those old favorites on like Netflix or what have you. And then beyond that, like you said, like free services, those are a big thing too. So Pluto TV and actually Plex, I've been checking out their free library more recently lately. And Pluto TV is one of those services that doesn't run quite as well on our smart TV or on our older Roku. So that's when I call in some of the newer hardware to run some of those devices or some of those services. And beyond that, for the local channels, we lucked out right now in our location. We have decent over-the-air access, so I haven't had to rely on Locast. But when I've used it, especially when we've talked about it on our previous calls, it's worked well. But we just don't need it, and we've lucked out that most of the channels, especially the ones that carry Seahawks games, are within our range and come out pretty clear on our side.
I have to ask, how many channels do you get with your antenna?
So we do that usual thing, and and if you have an over-the-air antenna, it's something you should do often. Is just scan to see what channels are available. Maybe the signals have changed, or the frequencies have changed, or maybe new things have come up. So we do that regular scan pretty often, and it comes out. I believe last I checked, 41 or 42. That being said, a lot of them are channels that I wouldn't necessarily watch, but they're nice to have. A lot of government access channels, so if you want to watch city council meetings in real time, you can do that too. And I'll be honest, I used to cover those as a newspaper reporter, so sometimes I'll find myself catching those and seeing, reliving the old days. But for the most part, we have, the major networks and a couple of their like sister stations and stuff like that. But generally about 41, 42. How about you?
I know I already asked you this during the Lowcast video. I just had to remind myself. Yeah, I get 11 channels. So with my antenna. And I think it's just because I live right in the middle of the city. I'm completely surrounded by big buildings and concrete and all of that stuff. So reception is not great. So Lowcast was a lifesaver.
Yeah, that's what I've seen with some of my colleagues that live like actually in Seattle, like closer to the broadcast towers, that they have trouble actually getting the signal because all the tall buildings and the weird geography and stuff like that. So yeah, we kind of lucked out that we were in a fairly wide open space.
I'm jealous.
Well, you just need to move out farther away from Cleveland, I guess.
Move to a farm, get some more chicken.
And like you mentioned, we also want to talk about our go-to shows and movies. We've got, in our household, we have a lot of old favorites that we go to when we just want something running in the background. But do you want to share what you're currently watching?
Yeah, definitely. So this is a little bit embarrassing, but I will admit it here for you and all of the internet. I'm like 10 years behind and started watching Game of Thrones recently.
Oh,
So, yeah, I've been watching that on HBO Max. I don't know if it was just because I never had HBO before, or maybe I just thought it wasn't going to live up to the hype, but you guys were right. I love Game of Thrones. So, I'm in the 3rd season of that now.
okay.
So, really, really loving it as much as everyone told me I would, and I did not believe them. And then whenever I need a break, here's another guilty pleasure admission for the internet. I watch Big Brother. Love it. I know that we have a lot of people in the Wednesday night Q&A crowd that also are big Big Brother fans, which is very annoying because one of their episodes is on Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock, the same time that we do the live stream. So luckily, I catch up on Paramount Plus later in the week.
Just turn the Q&A into a watch party and just watch it
I know, we
with
did
the
talk
viewers.
about that last week because some of our people that usually come were missing, and I just don't know what to do about it anymore. But luckily, we can all catch up on Paramount Plus for those who want to watch the Q&A and want to catch up on Big Brother.
Yeah, those services that let you access recently aired TV, those come in handy for us because we're never, we don't we don't follow a live TV schedule, so we never catch things new. Yeah,
Gone are the days of planning your life around a TV schedule.
yeah. There's no more like I have to be home by 8 because this is airing. Let's like no, I'll catch it within the next week or so, maybe.
Yeah, agreed. So what else are you
Um,
watching?
So yeah, we have a lot of old favorites that we go to. So on Netflix, we're probably on our 50th, not really, but our 50th rewatch of New Girl. It's just like comfort food at this point. So we love that show. My wife Jennifer is actually rewatching Supernatural, which is what 350 or so episodes. And what's fun for her is that this is the first time I'm actually like actively paying attention to it. Like her previous rewatches, I'll like catch snippets here and there, and I'm mostly there to say, "Hey, that dude was on Stargate," or "She was on Battlestar Galactica," and now I'm actually watching it and following it through, and it's been interesting. I think we're on season 5 now, so we're not even a third of the way through probably, but it's interesting, and there's a lot of content there for me to get through. So getting through that, and then on Disney Plus actually, and I've tweeted about this recently, but the animated show Bluey, it's amazing actually. It's yes, it's a cartoon. It's aimed at kids, but for parents, it's an amazing show about basically it's about two parents who love their daughters very very much, and that resonates with my wife and I. So if you're looking for a kid friendly show that appeals to adults, check out Bluey. It's a lot of fun. And the theme song is as catchy as it is. The episodes are only 8 minutes long, so you hear the theme song a lot. So that skip intro button comes in comes in handy.
You are
um,
like 10 of my parent friends who has mentioned Bluey within the last couple weeks. It's a
it's
hit.
wonderful.
Yeah, it's wonderful, and yeah, it's one of those shows like I can recommend to like non-parents, or it's just fun to watch, and so it's fun for kids, fun for adults, that kind of thing. As far as other live TV, so my wife and I are also slowly catching up on Good Girls on Hulu, and that's another one that it airs live, and then we managed to catch up like a week or so later. And we're kind of bummed that they've announced that this is the final season, so we're curious, how it's going to actually end. So we've got a few more episodes to go in there, and we're also catching, I believe, The Good Doctor on ABC. That's another one that we'll catch up with probably weeks after it's aired. But I think that's the full list of things we're catching up on now.
Oh, another one that I just finished watching, and maybe you would like, Philip. I watched the trailer and was not convinced until again the Q&A crowd told me to watch it and I would like it. It's Sweet Tooth on Netflix.
Oh
It's
yeah.
been like at the top of these Nielsen top 10 lists forever, and I finally gave it a try and really liked it more than I thought I would.
Yeah, I'll be honest, there are a lot of ones that folks have been like, oh, you should check this out. And I have no reason not to because I trust, my friends and colleagues about their instincts. It's just a time thing. But yeah, Sweet Tooth is on our list, definitely. And speaking of list, one of the next topics I wanted to discuss is, not just the stuff we're streaming, but the stuff we hope to eventually get around to streaming. So, let's start with like what's on your watch list or your to-do list.
My to-do list is right, yeah. So I need to catch up on Loki, and that is
Ah, yeah.
top of my list because again, people keep telling me I have to see it through, and I don't know why I can't keep up with the episodes in real time, but I need to catch up on that. And then I made a list. I knew you would ask. So I'm looking forward to season 2 of Ted Lasso. That's coming up very soon. Excited about that one. And there are 2 movies that I really want to stream. A Quiet Place 2 just
Oh
came out
yeah.
on Paramount Plus. That's top of my list. And Black Widow, obviously. I know that one just came out, and I wanted to watch it the night it came out, but I have not gotten a chance yet.
I understand. Yeah, time is precious sometimes. And so yeah, our watch list is actually kind of similar. So yeah, Loki's at the top of our list. There's no one I've talked to that says I shouldn't watch it. Everyone says I should check it out, and I love everyone involved. I've seen them in other work, and I'm like, yeah, I'll check this out. But eventually we'll get to it. It took me forever to get through the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I just said I need to consolidate or overlap time. So I just started watching that while on the treadmill. I'm like, all right, I need to figure out time to watch stuff. So that's where I watch that. So hopefully we'll set aside time to watch Loki. Again, and also with you, we need to watch Ted Lasso. Actually, I haven't seen the first season. I know, right? So we need to check it out. Everyone, literally 100% of the people that I've seen talk about Ted Lasso talk about it positively, and so we finally went through with that 1 year upgrade or 1 year preview of Apple TV Plus. So we have no reason to check it out now. It's free to us for the next year, so we might as well. So yeah, Ted Lasso season 1 and then season 2 coming. And then, yeah, like you mentioned, Sweet Tooth. And yeah, Black Widow, again, heard good things, and I want to check that out sooner rather than later as well. And now that I think about it, and this is way back there, relatively speaking, but I don't think we've actually finished WandaVision, which we stopped halfway through, like right when the big cliffhanger or what have you, and we were really interested. We just ran out of time to go follow through with it, so we need to actually go back and watch WandaVision. So
Absolutely worth finishing that one out. If nothing else, Catherine Hahn is amazing.
I've
And
heard.
yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about her and her character and her performance. And I believe I just saw that she was nominated for an Emmy, so I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
WandaVision got a ton of nominations, and did Sweet Tooth? No, what am I thinking of? The Crown on Netflix
Ah,
got a
yes.
ton, and The Mandalorian also.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of familiar faces. Oh yes, The Mandalorian. I finally caught up on that, but I finally watched season 1 not too long ago, which is way later than everyone else got The Mandalorian.
I am
But I'm
still on
finally
Game
caught
of
up.
Thrones, so
That's fine. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna be curious. I'm gonna follow along with your watch your adventure with Game of Thrones because I want to see like how your interest level and your enjoyment level progresses over time. So
I will keep you up to date. I'll send you a Slack every time that I get through another season.
I'm gonna put a regular calendar invite just to check in with you and see where you're at, what season, what episode. Yeah.
so yeah, before we sign off, anything else you wanted to share about your streaming or your entertainment, what you do in your spare time, basically.
I don't think so. I was just telling Philip, so now I'll tell all of you too. I am keeping such a close eye on Black Friday deals for new TVs because I saw a picture of Philip's and I was very jealous. So once Black Friday comes around, look out for all the good TV deals because I will be posting them nonstop and buying one for myself. So I will keep everyone updated about that journey too.
Yeah, like this TV, it's kind of not really out of character, but I had to work up to investing in a TV that fancy, and like I said earlier, it was like $600 or $700 off. Otherwise, I would have been like, no, that's too much. But it finally ticked that below that level. We're like, all right, let's pull the trigger. So yeah, I will keep an eye out for Friday deals for you as well, and for our readers because everyone's looking for a good deal.
Oh yeah, we'll share them, of course.
All right. Well, I think that's all I had for this time. And I hope to do this again soon, just to check in, not just to see how your Game of Thrones watch is going, but also to see what else we're following along, what else we're streaming and enjoying.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always happy to talk about TV.
All right. Thanks, Jess. And thanks again to Jess for joining us for this convo, and thanks again to you for checking us out. If you have any other recommendations about shows or movies you think either of us would want to check out, feel free to leave those suggestions in the comments section down below. And of course, don't forget those like and subscribe buttons down below as well. Both of those help out our channel immensely and help YouTube recommend us to more and more viewers. For now though, my name is Philip Palermo. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Take care.